are watching the Blueprint Radio Show with DJ Miss Hennessy.
Don't just talk about your successes and your wins. Talk about the losses. I spend more time talking about the losses. When I'm mentoring people, they all know it. I got the bio. They all really talk about it. I talk about, when I got cooked off the team. When I didn't make that NBA squad that first time. When I didn't get the contract, when I got passed over. I talk about that, how I feel. Because as these mentorees start to go forth in life, they're going to hit some tough times. I like to always say, you win some and you learn some. And the more you learn, the more you're going to win. So I talk about those types of things. I talk about those things. And sometimes it can be a little bit embarrassing, but as Simone said, it'll definitely be cathartic. Because you're going to learn a whole lot about yourself. Some of that stuff that you kind of just put out your mind. Life is about growth. You either venturing or you vegetating. You have to grow, so you gotta be surrounded with people who push you and challenge you to live your best life. Somebody you tell your dreams to, and they come back to you and say, have you done it yet? When you gonna do it? What you think you got all day? No, you ain't got it. You said you 70 something. Come on now, what you gonna do? You gotta have those kind of people that'll call and do that. One of my mentors told me in life, he said, you can see a lot better with my rear view lights than you can with your head. He said, you can see a whole lot better. And I remember him telling me, he said, listen, I'm going to show you a lot, this much about what to do. I'm going to show you this much about what not to do. And I'm telling you, this is probably going to be the most important one. Because it's going to save you time, energy, a whole bunch of money. So he said, what time are we going to start the training? I said, Saturday morning, 5 a.m. sharp. He was like, 5 a.m.? It's kind of early, but 5 a.m. because they don't drive, I'm going to get up. And I'm about an hour away, and then I'm get up at 4. Why can't we do it at 11? I said, you could do it at 11. But it don't cost you nothing at 11. The guys who ain't gonna make it, the guys I used to play, if you got up at 11 to work out, because I was up at 4:30. If you got up at 11, I knew I was gonna beat you when the season started. It was no way in the world. I don't care what the score was. I'm gonna look across the court. I don't care how tired I am. I'm gonna say, that's 11 o'clock guy. He can't beat me. I'm up at 4:30. You can't beat me. Because I just soon died. He didn't beat me. And you get up at 11.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exclusive interview right here on Miss Hennessy TV. I'm your host, Maxine Johns, aka Miss Hennessy. And tonight, well, this is a big one. And I didn't even know, actually, I don't even think people know when you want to interview, but you don't know how you're going to get it. And then you get it and you don't know what you're going to do with it. And then all of a sudden it's here. That's tonight. I'm so excited to introduce this incredible human being. He's done amazing things. He's doing amazing things. And I'm so excited to be able to talk to him tonight about those amazing things. Former Harlem Globetrotter, global ambassador for Charity Bounce here in Australia, the incredible Mr. Tracy Williams. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. You bless me, you bless me, you bless me, and you honor me. Thank you, Maxine. I'm excited about being on this show. I hope I can live up.
Oh, listen, absolutely, brother, absolutely. Now, we've only just sort of recently met in the last, I'd say maybe four 4 or 5 months. Incredible mutual friend introduced us at an incredible book launch that we got to meet at it in Sydney, and it's just one of those moments where you go, I know I've bumped into somebody that's exemplary to our culture and to what we're building here. And I'm just so excited that we've been able to make some time and space for this conversation. Now, we were talking a little bit beforehand and just trying to figure out what coast of the US you represent. And we just obviously I found out you were born in Brooklyn, New York, but spent most of your formative years in North Carolina. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Definitely. I got the North and the South. My mother, she hates it that I lost my New York accent. You know, I
Does mom
always,
still live in
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
most of the
And
family
she's
still in
like,
New York.
why you got that drawl, that Southern drawl? And I'm like, Mom, I live in North Carolina now. And she's like, I know, but you from New York,
See,
and I'm like, yeah,
that's it. There's that New York. There's
yeah,
definitely, but you definitely got that New York. There's
yeah.
that energy though. You might have the drawl of the South, but you got the energy of New York, and you've happened to find yourself in Sydney, Australia. Thankfully, you don't have that accent. I don't think your mum would want to talk to you if you were coming to her way by the Australian accent. But how are you finding it living over here? How long have you been in Sydney, more importantly?
And in January, I think it'll be 4 years, 4.5 years.
Okay.
Um, I tell you, I love it.
Yeah.
I came, my oldest daughter was recruited out here. She's in a exec for Pfizer out here.
Oh,
And she's been here for 10 years and she's a citizen and
oh
she
wow.
and her husband. And so me and my wife came out back in 2015,
Hmm.
spent about 18 days. And I just felt like, the first couple of nights we were jet lagged and was like when we should have been asleep. But I just remember my daughter at the time was living in Woolloomooloo.
Oh,
And so
nice.
we would walk from her apartment over to the opera house
Yeah.
around through the park. And I remember that night just as clear. And I remember sitting on the little grass across from
Yes.
the opera house. And I told my wife, I said, Tina, I said, I think God is telling me I'm gonna bless you here.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking like this is literally the other side of the world.
Yeah.
I don't know, other than my daughter, I don't know anybody here. I have my own business, really like as you can get it, expect a whole nother life
Yeah.
in a different hemisphere. And I just but I believe that's what I heard. And 2 years later,
Mm.
I came back and I knew I said, this is where I'm supposed to be. And when you believe a thing, your actions correspond to it. So I started moving like, hey, this is where I'm going to be. This is where, the next chapter of my life, and so far it's been, the best chapter,
That's what's up.
from working with this organization. I said last night at our gala dinner, I said, you know, I've done it with a lot of things that people say is like really big stuff. I said, but what I do now, I feel like it's the honor of my life. I feel like
Oh, wow.
my legacy, because you think about that, I don't want people to just Google me and say, oh, okay, he was a professional basketball player.
Yeah.
I wanted to count a little bit higher for that, so, and thank God I've been able to do it, and I'm doing it. And I'm doing it like, right now. I mean, even being on this show with you, I just count it as such another blessing, another opportunity to try to empower
Yeah.
some people that's watching this today and make this a pivotal moment for a lot of them. And they say, hey, I'm gonna be better because I watched this show.
Man, and you know what? That's the very reason why I'm so blessed to have you on here, because not only are you here at the moment doing this incredible work with Charity Bounce, which we are going to talk about, because they are an incredible organization. They do such amazing change agent things, right? But what you just said before, being, and it's such a huge topic to unpack, right? Sports star, okay, already there, where that's a massive pedestal. But the world of basketball, right? And I really sort of want to get into this a little bit with you from your former career. um Being an American basketball player is the for most kids is the be all and end all, right? That's the mecca, right? I know I've got a 13-year-old son, and he's a basketball player, and his dream is the NBA.
Yeah.
And my husband and I tell him all the time, you can dream all you want, baby, but that work, you got to have that NBA man, that mentality, that work, and it starts with that consistency, that discipline, right? Not just, today I'm gonna pick my ball up and bounce, but I'm gonna rest for another two. No, you don't really rest. It's constant, right? You were at the peak, right? I mean, Harlem Globetrotter, for a lot of people who know, that's not just basketball, it's showmanship. Okay, that's another level. Can we talk about how that happened for you? How you came about becoming a part of this incredible global sport franchise, and how you navigated yourself through that, especially in such a competitive arena.
You know, I was like your son, who your son is now, where he was at. I had this incredible hoop dream. When I moved to North Carolina, it was kind of like based on some circumstances. My mom and my dad was from North Carolina, but he had moved to New York.
Right.
And he met my mom there. And then about 8 years later, they got a divorce, and he went back to North Carolina.
Right.
Mom, not long after that, moved down to the Washington, D.C. area. So I was there for a while. And just her, just really, well, I'm going to just tell you, I started getting in some trouble and stuff, kind of hang, in them streets. And
Yes.
yeah, I'm going to just say in the streets.
Just go leave it in the
Yeah,
street.
yeah,
The
yeah.
trouble done.
And my mom, loving me like she does, she said, you know what? Well, I give it a little more context. I got arrested this one time, and something happened. Instead of the cop taking me to the precinct that booked me or whatever, he asked me when he handcuffed me and put me in the back of the car. He said, "Where do you live?" And first I didn't know. I thought that was a strange question for him to ask me, because he didn't want to ask where I was coming. Why is he asking me where I'm coming from?
Right.
He knows his job is to take me to
To
where.
where you gotta go.
Yeah, and I'm like, so I would just still remember going, because I'm scared,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking this is it, because my mother kept saying, "You keep out there, you're gonna go to jail,
Right.
to jail." So I tell him, he takes me to my mom's house. I remember my sister going back in the room and telling her, and I remember her coming out the room, and the police. I'm still in handcuffs, and I saw my mother. As soon as she saw me, she started crying.
Oh
And I
no.
only seen my mother cry once in my life,
Oh.
and that always tore me up. Like that's I can't even have no
Yeah.
words of what that was like. So, and I remember she asked the police officer. She said, "Look, if you let him go, I'll make sure that he'll go live with his dad in down south, and he'll be better." Now, I definitely didn't want to do that, but I thought she was saying it trying to get me out.
Yeah.
So I just saw the guy take the handcuffs key, and I'm looking at my mom like, "Way to go, good looking
Yeah.
out."
Yeah. That was that mama magic. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
that's what's up right there, yo. I told you, Mom Duke's coming for the rescue, to catch your boy one more time. So, and he let me go, And I remember my mother just going in the room and start packing my clothes. I'm like, yo, what you
She
doing?
meant it.
And she was like, nah, you going to North
Wow.
Carolina. And at the time, and not only I didn't like it, I was really upset with her about it, for sending me there because I didn't want to go there. It was so different. What I didn't realize was that she was not only she was saving my life, that was a pivotal moment.
Right.
She was redirecting my life. I went to this area in North Carolina that, where they had guys like Dominique Wilkins and Michael Jordan. All of us, we grew up together playing in high school against each other and
Wow.
all kind of stuff. So, I mean, we didn't know how we were going to turn out at that time.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was it was, looking back on it, it was a magical time. It was a transformative time that in my life. And so yeah, she saved me. She saved me. She literally saved my life because I can't even imagine my life turning out the way it did if
Right.
I would have stayed there
Yeah.
in there. Because I'm in the streets, I'm running with guys who street guys.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be a street guy too.
Yeah.
My uncles and everybody, they street guys, and they the ones who got money. And we're gonna get that bag. So,
Yeah.
we out there and doing whatever. So she, in her love for me, she saved me and she sent me, even though I knew it hurt her love for me still was
Yeah.
stronger than that, and she sent me. And so I got there in North Carolina. Like I said, things started happening for me in ways. And I mean, like years later, I found out the stat that less than 1% of all kids around the world that's playing have basketball hoop dreams
Yeah.
are going to make it to university level, college level, which
Right.
is a huge deal in America.
Yep.
And it was a good thing. I was kind of like the bumblebee. I didn't know my wings was too small or whatever. I just, cause I don't know. And I'm glad they didn't. If somebody would have told me that stat, I just wanted to try to keep up with these other guys
Right.
that were playing. I got aforementioned that they were doing, and I just wanted to keep up with them.
Wow.
And that was so, and like I said, things really happened for me. I ended up playing not only on a Division I at the top level, I was on a top 20 team in the country. And I mean, and like we were saying earlier, that's television games every day.
Yeah.
it, it's a whole nother level.
It's a
That,
lifestyle. It's not
yeah,
just a game. It's a culture, it's a lifestyle in itself. And it takes a mental, it must. Okay, I'm talking like I'm playing it. I'm a basketball mom. All I'm doing is driving and motivating the car. But it it's a taxing mental sort of headspace you've got to be in, and to play at that level. I mean, I see what the younger ones are doing and I'm even exhausted for them. I look at my son and I go, how you navigate the ball out there like that, son? How you doing all these shots and alley oops? And yeah, I know mom knows some lingo, okay,
yep,
and the 3-point shots and whatever, and I don't know what backdrop and this up against the board. I just think it's fascinating to watch, and I think it's you're either blessed with it or you're not. Okay, you're either born with that ability to be able to ball, or you can learn it. But to me, I think it's a special God-given talent. Am I wrong in saying that?
you know what? I've often described, because I've been asked the question in interviews a lot. They said, is it something that you just have? It's like a
Mm.
gene or whatever. See, I never thought I was talented. People told me later. I just thought I had to work really hard. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
I remember I got up every morning at 4 a.m. because I knew I had school to catch the bus at 8. And I start running 4 to 5 miles that morning in the darkness. I'm starting my at least 1,000 shots taken a day. every day. You know, kids say, well, how did you stay motivated? I said, nah, you don't stay motivated. You just be consistent. You stay consistent.
Amen.
So you just do that, because there's gonna be days that stuff gonna get boring. You're gonna start having those thoughts like, why am I doing all of this stuff? I mean, I could get hurt and not be able to play, and or I could die or something and not be able to play. Anything could happen. You know, you start those things, just like every normal person.
Yeah.
Those thoughts come. But what the thing that I call it the real talents I had was I had an ability. I had learned how to kind of zoom in on stuff and have an imagination that could take a hold of a situation, and it became like this alternate reality. But it was the reality that I could just tune into and stay there as long as I wanted to. And even though my surroundings didn't say, you know, major, you know, basketball player, yeah, it didn't matter, because in my mind and the way I thought, all I had, it was just a matter of time. I just had to keep doing what I was doing, become a student of the game, try to learn everything I need to learn. I mean, it's like a focus, and you lock in on it. And all of those other talents, like your curiosity, you know, you wonder why you can't dunk and everybody else is dunking. So you start studying and you're watching it. Then not only now could I dunk, now I dunk on people and all kind of stuff like that. But but it's a process. That whole process. And I don't know, I guess this is what, like Malcolm Gladwell said, you get those 10,000 hours. At some point, one day, like a light kind of came on.
Right.
I was like, and it wasn't even as much as saying I'm good. You say, looking in the mirror and saying I'm good.
Yeah.
Or you reading in a magazine. Now you in these magazines, and now you on the news every night, and you can't even really go to school. You know, the girls is checking for you now. That never even would have spoke to you before. And as you were saying, you know, and I tell young parents that with young kids, hey, you got to get them ready for it. You can't, you know, because all of this attention. See, we spending time trying to be great basketball players. We not spending time, you know, learning how to deal with media, how to deal with, you know, you know, all of a sudden your whole life is an interesting topic to people. You know, stuff that you just, because nobody cared. I mean, you know, I mean, I'm on TV. I remember my sisters telling me, "Oh boy, you ain't gonna never be on TV because your lips too big and you ugly and all this other stuff." And you know, now all of a sudden you on TV, you doing TV shows, you in movies, and your mind, you haven't really spent time talking about learning to how to navigate that stuff in a way. So you're destined to make mistakes. You're destined to have some of those things that happen. And sometimes some guys, you know, the consequences of their mistakes were more total than it was for me. You know, I mean, I didn't understand the game of reporters asking you stuff. You know, I'm just thinking, hey, the Washington Post wants to talk to me.
Right. Like the media training side of it, they didn't really do that stuff with you guys. See, that's crazy because you look at it now. I mean, the sporting world, that's a huge machine, man. And some of these guys, and it blows my mind, the pressure that a lot of these, especially basketball players, are under, with the media always down on that court. And the minute they've either won or they've lost and it's a champion game, they can't even catch their breath, and boom, up in their face with the microphone, asking those questions that you haven't even come off from, whatever, either it's a high or a low, from a win or a loss. And that media training, you see the ones who've had it and you wonder the ones who haven't, how they navigate that. But I guess from back then, I mean, the Harlem Globetrotters, again, massive global, you know, franchise. And you were young, right? You were a teenager when you were drafted into it. So how long had it been for you? Like how long was your entire career with them from that beginning to
I
when you
started in '87 and finished
man,
in '93, '94 season. So yeah,
wow,
I'm old.
wow.
Now I don't.
Season. Trace, we don't say old, we say
Yeah,
season.
yeah,
Come
season,
on now.
season. I'll take that. I'll take that. And I don't even know, even though they talk to you about it, I, the Globetrotters, I never knew how famous they were outside of America. I mean, it's still amazing to me to see, I mean, literally, you would say like, wow, all these people coming to see us.
Yeah.
You know, I remember one night we're in Mexico City and it's almost 100,000 people there at the game. And we got like 8 games there and they're sold out every night.
Yeah.
And you're like, your plane lands and it's like a sea of humanity on the tarmac. And you got these soldiers and stuff
Yeah.
trying to move these people back. So I think it's a lot, and like you said, it's nonstop. And I'm gonna say this: you probably heard other people from my time say it. I'm so glad they didn't have social media and
Listen.
cell phones back then. Oh my God!
Yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
like and again for something as and I think it's interesting that you say that you were so surprised to know or to learn of the love that the international love that the Globetrotters have. And I think I know that they came here a few years ago. I think it was a reunion tour. Were you part of that?
no, I didn't. But I was with them back a few months ago when they came to Kudo.
Oh, yes.
And the new guys now.
Yes, of course. But I
Yeah.
think you know what, there's a legacy that the Globetrotters have
Oh,
built, which is separate to the machine of the NBA. And I think why the love is there, and this is from a non-sport person at the time before I birthed little sports people, if I can say that, is there was a really nice magic about watching you guys do these incredible things with this ball on a court, and it was guaranteed to just make people happy. And I think that's so separate from just being an avid sports fan or an avid basketball fan. You go in and you know your stats and you have your favorite player, and it's all of that incredible hoopla that Americans are just synonymous with. And there's no other country in the world that I think you'd want to go and watch a live sports event at other than the States. And I say
yeah.
that wholeheartedly. Like you guys go all in with that. And I've told my husband that so many times. It's a thing of beauty. But I think the layer that the Harlem Globetrotters sort of added was just, it was almost whimsical. It was like watching this, like you'd go and you'd see a show, and you see you guys doing these incredible athletic feats that the mere mortal couldn't achieve. And that's what it is. And I think that's the beauty of basketball, to a lot of us, so yeah.
Maxine, it's interesting that you say that, because you're right. I mean, I think one time I was doing an interview with this lady. This lady, I think from the Toronto Star, had came out, and she spent a week with a Harlem Globetrotter. She was with me, and that she's like behind the scenes,
Right.
just trying to capture all of that. And she was like, I seen so much, I feel so overwhelmed. It's like, she said, could you help put it into words? I said, when you play basketball, I think it's like when you're really, really good at it, you're like Michelangelo or Picasso or somebody, because it's like the court is your canvas. Every night you get an opportunity, you go to a clean canvas. The ball is your brush. In basketball, like other sports, but really in basketball, the game is about expression. When you reach the highest or the peak of your abilities in this game, It's you expressing yourself personally through moves and shots and things, the way you play the game. It's almost like you show the world your personal DNA and how you approach the game, how you play the game. So, and that was your oils. So you got that all, that's the brush, the court is the canvas, that your expression is the oil, and every night you try to paint a picture perfect.
Yeah.
It's all of these things, and each time you walked on the court, it was like being born again. Is because you get another life.
There you
You
go.
know, yeah, you get
And a new canvas.
new canvas.
Oh, I love that.
And we're known as the ambassadors of goodwill. You
Yeah.
know, we're the magicians of basketball. You know, and you go. It's documented stories where Globetrotters. I think we went to Chile, and they were having a civil war there. And so we're going to cancel. And the promoter said, no, let's wait. We're going to check. And they had literally a ceasefire. So we could play I think it was 4 games in both sides, so they could come see the game.
Wow.
And then they went right back to fighting. I mean, you know, the Globetrotters are the only basketball team that has a standing agreement with NASA to, when they can do it, to play the first basketball game on the moon.
Oh my.
So and that we already had contracted to be the first ones to do interplanetary basketball game. Is you know, so
Are you gonna be involved? Are you going?
I hope so in my lifetime that happens, because it's you know, it was, again, it was one of those experiences. Like I said, when moving to North Carolina, I didn't really understand it until as I got in it. Because just like your son, you know, my dream was like the NBA, and I wanted to do that. And you know, now, but my dad, was a huge Globetrotter fan, because that was the only thing. You know, the NBA was segregated. They didn't let black people play in the NBA.
Right. Yeah.
So all the top players, the black players in America, played for the Globetrotters, and they weren't just doing tricks. Then there was no tricks; they were just playing. Anybody who would play them, any color, anywhere, they would just travel. A barnstorming team, they were called, that would go and play, you know, for money against whoever you had. And you know, and then they started having these little series with the NBA champions, and the Globetrotters would always beat them. So it got to the point where, and they would be sold out. Like the NBA games, the Globetrotters would play first at the NBA games, and the crowds would sell out. And where the NBA was drawing really small crowds, so they would play their games after the Globetrotter game.
Wow.
So, because the people would just stay.
It's different forms of showmanship, though.
Yes.
Because the Globetrotters, to me, like I was explaining to you, it was whimsical, but it was also, it was like you said, like magic. And I think people, you know, if you're not if you're not a big sports star, or I mean, I'm not a sports star, but a big sports fan or a sports person, but you enjoy that healthy, positive competition without that kind of grunt which a lot of the other sports offer. Harlem Globetrotter wins, right? For me, it was the positive choice. Okay, not saying that or not negating that the other teams weren't.
Right.
It just didn't have that. And here you are saying, well, you guys were initially. That's where people would go and see, and you would often beat the NBA, you know, superstars. So that's a history that I don't know has really been spoken about, or maybe it has. I'm just not a sports person, so it's interesting for me to learn that. You know, that's incredible.
No, you had to, you know, that you had to dig for that.
I did.
That's not readily out there, but
well, thank you, Tracy. This is why we're chatting tonight. The gems are flowing.
Yes, it's a thing where, you know, and I mean, you look, you know, people. I was telling somebody today that I said, you know, the first pro team that Wilt Chamberlain played on, they said, the Philadelphia 76. I said, no. First 2 years was Harlem Globetrotters.
Wow.
I said, again, the first Black player to play in an NBA game was a Harlem Globetrotter, Nat Sweetwater Clifton. I said, most of the Connie Hawkins, all of the great high flying artists of those early days when they integrated, you know, our players were the Jackie Robinsons of the NBA culture. And I mean, and you can never talk about the history of basketball on this planet without talking about us.
Yeah.
Because we're woven from the beginning to the end in the fabric of this game. And
you're the origin story.
Yes, definitely, especially as far as African Americans come from. We're and now the NBA's 78% African American, from where it started. And it's definitely, it's changed it. It's changed the whole landscape of what the game was when they first started playing it, what the league was when they first started having it. So I mean, it's a lot of, we won't even have the time. It's a lot of history.
There's a part two that would have to ensue with your basketball career, because I know that once a basketball player, always, right? Just it's in your blood, it's entrenched, especially with the history that you've got. And I'm sure even when you left the Globetrotters, you were still entrenched within the basketball world, but your your sort of canvas was always bigger than just playing the sport. So I'm interested to then know how you ended up being in the motivational speaking arena, because you're an amazing orator, and you're just great to listen to. And I know that you've spoken in rooms that some of us could only dream to speak about or speak in, amongst some really, really great people. So can we touch a little bit on that?
Again, stumbled, I tell it was a God.
Happened upon.
Yeah, it wasn't. I can't. I wish I could, but I can't tell you. Oh yeah, I sat down. I planned this out. No. One of the things with the Globetrotters, we would come to cities and we would do like radio and television drops. Like we come in New York, we do Good Morning America or Today Show and stuff.
Right.
So so I started doing that. So really, it was a thing that when I first got on the team, first year players were kind of, because the older guys, they wanted to sleep in the mornings. And most of those shows are morning shows. So you got to be up at 6 a.m. And we didn't get back from the arena from signing autographs until 12, 1 o'clock. So, the next morning they be like, hey, Rook, you got the radio and everything tomorrow.
You were almost the unofficial spokesperson for them.
Exactly. But I know people might think, but yeah. They sent the best guys. No, they sent the young guys. They said, hey, yeah, you want to be famous? Yeah, go tomorrow and do Hot 97. Be on the radio.
There you go. They were setting you up. They knew what they was doing.
Yeah, and I didn't even know it. I was just kind of like, yeah. And then you do other type of forward work. We call it forward work, where you would go and you would speak, and people were always asking, could you get a Globetrotter to come and do an appearance everywhere around the world where we went? And I went and I enjoyed it, and after I was no longer on the team, a lot of people that heard me speak at certain places, well, some of them, they ran organizations, they did this and that, and they called and I remember one time they would either like call through the Globetrotters or they would get with me directly. But I remember I had the Globetrotters that called me and said, look, they want you to come speak down in Texas. And I said, okay. And now I'm still not really in the speaking business then, and I said, okay. So they said, yeah, they want you to go down there. They're having a centennial 100-year thing and they wanted you to come speak. And I went and spoke, and after it was over with, the organizer, the lady who organized the whole program for the city, she took me to dinner, And we, you know, how you sitting there, you talking, and she was like, you know what? I am so excited. I'm so glad. You were awesome. You know, when we do these things, sometimes we pay all this money to people and they just sometimes they just don't live up to it. I don't think
Right.
she said. So she said, but you really, really, really did. So now I'm thinking like, how much money? I know how much they paying me. And
That,
I'm like, wait a minute.
that magic word.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, how do I ask her? So somewhere along the course of the meal, I said, how much did you pay? They pay. And she said about 15. I
Yeah.
said, whoa, what? And she said, yeah. I said, okay, God,
Yeah.
I got
Yeah. I'm just gonna go change my
it.
resume and
That-
add
that's it.
speaker.
You know exactly what I did.
This is
I
how it
went
is.
home immediately. I started Tracy A. Williams Enterprises,
Wow.
professional speaking and consult. Got right into the business, and just like everything else, Maxine, I started like say speaking at a school. I think the first time that I officially in my business, the place I spoke at was a juvenile detention center in
Wow.
Columbus, Ohio. And,
Hey,
and
that's what my husband's from.
really,
Yeah, was born in Columbus, Ohio, but raised and started his military career in LA. So yeah, Cali by way of Columbus, Ohio.
yeah, he was cold over there too. Because every
Yeah.
time I go there,
See it. Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
freezing. It's freezing.
Yeah.
And this guy again, you know, one of those things. He said, "Man, I heard you speak," and I'm like, I don't, you know, I'm thinking to myself, I don't remember. And he's like, and I thought it was really good. And I think our kids need to hear you speak. And he, well, I'm thinking it's January and it's cold and I don't want to go to Columbus. And I'm thinking, and then he said, you know, and we would just want you to come, man. He said, and let's just say he offered me a check with a comma on it.
Yeah, good go.
And I said,
Cold wear,
okay. I said, yeah, I can get a coat on that one. And
coat,
and
beanie, whatever you got to do.
yeah, I'm there. And that's how it
Wow.
started, man. Until one day I'm I get a call from the White House one day.
Oh
And
my
again, it's
God.
just like the people on television. The first thing you think, Maxine, is who is this calling me? This is,
I ain't got time for this today.
yeah. Come on. And just like they say, I just kind of blew them off. You know, it was kind of like, you know, and I still remember the lady's name. It's been years. She was like, hello, this is Elizabeth Weeby. I work at the White House and I'm want to speak with Tracy Williams. And I'm like, say that again? And she said, I would like to speak to Tracy. I said, no, the part you said ahead of time.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
said, oh, I'm Elizabeth Weeby. I'm from the White. I said, she said, I work with the offices something of the president. And I was like, okay. And she said, I was calling. And I said, you know what? I'm on another line. Could I call you back? And she said, okay, all right. But all right. And she gave me the number and I hung up and I waited like 2 or 3 minutes. I think I walked down the stairs and came back up and I called and it said the White House. And I was like, oh, okay. Look, I was like, this white lady called me. God, geez, I didn't even write her name down. I just wrote the number.
You
I
know,
said,
punked
no.
yourself out.
Yeah, I was like, with this Presidential Commission on Community Faith-Based
Retitling the
Initiative.
lady's job and
And they
everything.
said, and they said her name. They said Elizabeth. And I was like, yeah, her. And you
Oh,
know,
wow.
I was like, after that was just foggy. And then I'm there for the event. You go into this place and it's 4,000 people in there. It's these big jumbotron screens and it's crazy. And but yeah, and when you do that kind of stuff, it just kind of blow you up like at another level years later for President Obama at the National Prayer Breakfast in 2015, and just, standing in that room, Maxine, and and the Secret Service, and the guy who rather saying the president and first lady will be here in a little while, in the next few minutes, and your heart gets to racing a little bit, and you're thinking the first Black president of the United States of America. Yeah. And you're thinking, okay, this is crazy. Yeah. But I was gonna be cool though. That was the plan.
It's a given though, Chad. I couldn't imagine you not having been cool. I would have been breaking out in a cold sweat, having anxiety attacks.
Well, look, I was cool right up till the guy goes, ladies and gentlemen, the president of the United States and the first lady. Whoa. And my mind left me. Now, they had already told us, no camera phones, no pictures, no nothing. When they come in the room, if you can get with them and we'll take pictures later with them. But
just control yourselves in the initial.
Yeah, you can't take pictures and everything, because they was just talking about, for security reasons, people get those pictures and they see how the security force.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I forgot all of that. And soon, oh my God, and Michelle came in with this green chiffon dress, and you could tell her arms were toned, and she was like, I'm
the hair done, everything.
The hair was like
smelling like that Johnson's shea butter.
Flawless. And you're like, and I had called myself speaking in my camera phone, my phone, and I remember looking around. This goes to show you out there how good the security is with the president. I looked around me, Maxine. I thought from the looks of it, that any Secret Service guy you were closer to me right now than that Secret Service guy. Soon as I lift that phone up, it's like they came up out of the floor, and the guy put his hand on my shoulder, and it felt like he was Mr. Spock from Star Trek, putting a Vulcan mind grip or something on my shoulder. And they were like, "Sir, we told you, no photos."
Don't do it to us. Don't do it.
And my wife turned on me like right there, Maxine. She was like, I told him. He don't listen. She's telling the Secret Service, he don't like, you need to arrest him.
I feel Miss Tina right there. I would have been giving you a look like,
like I ain't with him.
Yeah, I'm not with him.
I can stay, but you can take him. She said, I told him upstairs. I said, look, do not get in here with that. And I'm like, oh my God, you a snitch. I'm like, but no, he came in there with that phone talking about he got it hid inside his coat.
She was telling, oh my God.
Hey, dry snitching the whole way. She don't even know I could have been facing all type of federal crimes. She's like, but all she wanted them to know, Maxine, right there was, I ain't really with him. And
this is too funny.
I told him, people told us, the liaisons told us, do not come in here and take no pictures. And I said, okay. So I'm like giving her the side eye. The rest
having the domestic as the Obamas are coming down.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, I see. I said, I got you. I know who you are for that. I said, gonna dime me out at the federal level. We ain't talking about no state charges. She diming me on the feds. You know, in America, you got to do 97% of that time. That's the whole run. And I'm looking at her like, wow. Like quick.
Yeah.
I told him. Yeah. And and that whole situation, and after that, it just kind of grew. And then it was Fortune 500 companies like Michelin tires and different ones. And so it Mercedes, it's just, Bank of America. It was just kind of, and I like to say, people sometimes say I'm a motivational speaker, but I've been saying, I'm a transformational speaker. And the way I explained the difference is, I said, just look at motivation, kind of like, gets people excited, gets them fired up. It's more like an aspirin.
Yeah.
I said, but transformation is more like a vitamin. Now, the aspirin, it'll mask whatever thing that's ill, But later on, when you get back to your desk or you get back home,
Yeah.
your boss sends you a bad email, or you go home and you get a bill unexpected.
Yeah.
It's gonna take all of your checkup, and all of a sudden it seems like all of that motivation starts
Right.
to kind of leak out and stuff, because now life, the vicissitudes of life is starting to punch holes in all of this newfound motivation and energy that you got. And what I try to do is to really kind of work myself out of a job, is to help you create an atmosphere around you that's going to speak to you long after I'm gone, that's going to still give you that same message over and over again, and to help you construct this environment to edit your life per se.
I like that.
Yeah, because we gotta, I think God puts in us, Maxine, these goals and these dreams.
Yeah.
Now, he fully intends us to get to it, but there's a process. We gotta have faith. We gotta believe to do it. I think he wants to grow us in the process. That's, and because we sometimes, I know, well, and I know you probably can attest to this too. Success has never been a straight line for me.
Well,
It's never, I can't think of a thing I've done that was, it was just like they taught you.
right.
It was, hey, you just do this and do this, and it's going to work out just like, no.
Yeah.
That's never been my reality.
But you know what? I will say this in hearing you talk about your journey, right? Because you're still on it. You're in the next phase right now, as you said in the beginning. Your new chapter has been here in Australia with what we're going to talk about next. But it you can tell it hasn't been straight, but my God, it has been ordered, right? It has been ordered. And I'm listening to you speak, just, and I know that there's obviously a lot more to cover, but just in this short time that we've had, I've learned so much about you and the life that you've lived and the legacy that you are setting up. It hasn't been straight, but it's been a masterclass for anybody who's taking the time to understand it and to listen and to learn. And with this interview, my God, I hope it lands in the laps and in the ears and on the audio for the right people to hear, who question the road that they're on, who question, am I doing this right? Or where's the blueprint for this? You create your own blueprint, right? There's no, everybody's template is so different. But to hear you say, well, I didn't really think of myself like that, it happened. Those were ordered steps. That was your process. And God put you in those rooms. So that's God's work.
And he did it. And then all of a sudden, like he do, he said, all right, you got to leave all of that. You got to come 12,000 kilometers from where you are and start all over again. Do it again. Do it again.
Was that hard?
You know what? I don't feel like it was. Not that at that stage of my life.
Okay.
Because I've learned how to trust him about that. Like I didn't at that point. It would have been harder if I'd have been in my 20s.
Yeah.
But in my 50s, it was easy. It was a lot easier because I had seen his hand on so much stuff. I seen him take something foolish and make it wise. Something that you just never, how did that come out of this? You just still can't explain it. Yeah. And the only thing I had to do was take that first step, to start taking the steps. And sometimes you feel like, Maxine, you stepping out on nothing. Because I mean, you looking down at the ground and it ain't no ground.
Yeah.
or you on a tightrope and there's no net.
Yeah.
And you just gotta, you know, and I just could always hear everything you seeking to do is on the other side of that fear. And I've always told young people and all people really, I said, you know, if you're gonna maximize your life, if you're gonna really make this thing count or achieve this plan that I believe God has for every one of our lives, one thing you're gonna have to understand, you got to change the difference of some words. You gotta take courage. Courage is the definition of courage. I don't know what Webster Dictionary says, but for me, it's being scared to death almost, and you do it anyway.
Yeah.
It's that you trust in, you examine your heart, you saying, is this something good? Am I coming from a good place? Is this a good intention? That my intentions right here. Now it's still a monumental leap for you to do it, but you pack that stuff up that you got and you just go. And what I've learned at this part of my life now, I'm a little bit excited about it. I mean, I wasn't always that way. Nights, many a night, I'm like, God, am I really? You know, I don't care how much success you have. Those thoughts, people out there listening, you never get to the place where you don't have those doubtful thoughts, you don't have those fears. We just learn to manage it at a higher level.
Yeah.
We still have them. It's not,
If not more, Tracy,
yeah,
if not
yeah,
more, I think, because the risk is even greater. The older you are, you may trust him more and you
yeah,
trust the process more. But those risks, because you've set yourself up to a point. This is how
yeah.
I see it. And you've set yourself up to that level and you operating from that level of whatever your greatness is and whatever your expertise is. And all of a sudden this huge hoodwink happens, right? And you're like, how did I end up on this? Or how am I all of a sudden, I'm teaching now, but I was DJing not so long
Yeah.
ago. Like, how did that happen? And it's that, but because this is your next level and you can deny it, but if you don't listen to your soul, it kind of eats you up if you're not living your purpose, right? That's how I see it. So that risk is even greater, but the risk of not doing, oh my God, that's regret city right there.
It's
That's
the
regret.
worst. You know, like I said, I think we were talking earlier. I said, no, I think it was somebody else. You know, for some reason, I just jumped up about 30 years ago. I started studying, like I told you, the people who have accomplished a lot of things. And it was just something that just kept going on. I wasn't trying to, I'd say I was going to do this research or anything. I was just intrigued and it pulled me more and more in. You know, I read a book called The 50th Law by Robert Greene and Curtis 50 Cent Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really a book about fear. The 50th Law it's about fear and how not only do we deal with it or not deal with it, but how other people have dealt with it through history. Mm-hmm. And how fear has shaped and molded not only people but history. With people who acted out of fear and acted despite of fear. You know, I always try to keep things really short so people can remember it. I guess that's the speaker in me. And I tell them, I said, in a world full of people who who are afraid to do something, I'm afraid not to do it. Yeah. And in a world full of people who have a million reasons, and I mean real tangible reasons of why things aren't going to go right or why you shouldn't do stuff. I just need one reason to do it. Yeah. I'm to the place now, you ain't got to give me no whole lot of stuff. Actually, I'm like a weed. You ain't got to fertilize me. You can try to be stingy with the water. It don't take a whole lot for me to grow. And if you try to get rid of me 1 week, the next week I'll be back. I'm coming back around again. And even though you trying your best not to feed me, yeah, I find a way to get it done. And one of the things, like I said, I was telling you about I got a chance to go to a hospice and stuff and spend time with people who were at the end of their run, and had an opportunity, and most of the time you see people with a lot of regret. What you said, Maxine, they saying and stuff like, I wish I had said this to these people. I wish I had went to them and visit them at this place. I wish I would have said what I needed to say in that situation.
Right.
I wish I had done that passion that I never tried.
Oh.
And in that moment, I made a decision. That was a pivotal moment for me. I said, when my time comes, I'm going to say, Maxine, I can't believe I did that. Girl, do you know I said this? Do you know I took this life. I lived like I learned like I was going to live forever. I lived like I was going to die tonight. I lived my life full, and girl, I died empty. I was born in a room where everybody was smiling. I was the only one crying, but I lived my life so strong and so bold, and that when I go, I'm gonna die in a room with a bunch of people from ages 8 to 80, which would signify I touched some people's lives in a positive way a long time ago. And when I left, I was still doing it.
Oh, I love
that. The 8-year-old. The 8-year-old is there, and they feeling like they got just as much of a relationship, or they feel like they have something to come back and say thank you for, because I never stopped. I never stopped. I never got too old. I never got to the place, because one of the things that early success, or a certain amount of success can do, it can kill future success, because you start thinking about what you got to lose, because you gain all this stuff. Now, I got all these cars, I got all of this stuff, I got all of this stuff, I got this reputation to uphold, I got to do all of these things. And that stuff traps you. It becomes, if you don't manage it right mentally, if you don't process it right mentally, your past becomes your undertaker, not your teacher.
Yes.
It becomes your undertaker, and it starts to erode and totally destroy any future things that you could have done. I mean, you just imagine standing before God and you say, Maxine, you did some things earlier. I mean, you was hot coming out the gate, but then you got weary in well doing.
Yes.
You just slowed down, and it wasn't because you was old. You slowed down. You got old because you slowed down. You were never intended to retire. You were supposed to refire. You were supposed to go to the next level of life. I had so much more.
Oh, you talking to my soul right now, brother.
Yeah. And we think we done a lot, especially when you sitting there listening to the people read your bio off. Oh, he was a high school All-American. He was this and that. And you going like, man, how many people I know that's done that? He's done, White House events. He's done all of these things. He's traveled the world. And I'm going like, and all of that stuff, what you should be saying is, hey, don't listen. You should be sitting there going, la, 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 la. Right. I'm not listening to none of that, because your mind should be, what's next? God, what else do you got for me to do? What else? What else do you want me to do? Because everything I've done, and that I reached beyond my fear, has fed my life force.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even allow me to get sick, let alone die, because I was in harmony with the tone of my life. You know what? You remember that talking about the culture. Every time I would say the name of this album, it goes all over me. He said, Stevie Wonder's album, Songs in the Key of Life.
Oh, yes.
In the key of life. Yep. Our life is a song.
Yeah.
You know, the Bible says that one of the things that's in heaven, that's on earth, is music. Is music occupies both spheres, both states of being. That music, we'll take music with us.
Yes,
I
indeed.
mean, it's something that you can't touch, but you feel it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, it's something that you can't kind of see coming or whatever, but it moves you.
Yeah.
It's like the wind. And this whole thing is you just trying to stay in key, or when in the tempo changes, in the different, you know, how the music takes you different ways. And the thing is that we should always maintain that childlike innocence.
Oh, yeah.
We should always be like, wow. We never should lose wow. We should always be like, oh God, what's next, man? This thing here, it was the bomb. It was
Yeah,
straight. But
absolutely.
man, I know you about to turn up for real right now. It's this next thing, because you giving me a glimpse of it, and it's scary. It's scaring me. I tell kids all the time, I tell grown people all the time,
Yes.
I said, if you don't have a dream that at least makes you laugh when you
Yeah.
think, because your brain is saying, Maxine, how you gonna do all that? You know, I mean, for real.
That's it.
For real.
That self,
Yeah.
that inner voice, man. And I know at some point, listening to you right now, saying all this, and I'm a have to go and give my husband that extra high five, because he is that motivational, that transformational voice that I've needed and didn't realize I needed for so long. And I think it's also his military background too. It's all of that. Okay, so you did that. That's great. You got to keep going. There's other things happening. And I'm always about, oh, let me unpack now and let me see where I'm at. And I'm always trying to renegotiate my next path. And he's like, life, keep it moving. What's next? You have been given this gift. Do not ever sleep on your gifts. You got to keep reinventing, keep finding out. And there are times when I'm like, okay, that's enough. You're telling me too much. You're packing in too much. Okay, I am not in the military right now. Like, let's just chill. But hearing you sort of say that, and I know he is that voice behind me. And sometimes you don't want that voice. I just want to be still. And I'm sure you have that with your wife too at times, right? Where you just like, yeah, okay, I know, I got this. Sometimes we don't always have it. We need that voice. We need that you are doing great. Yes, there's a bit of a lull right now. Yes, you might feel like you don't have the next step to get to that next level, but it's there. God's making it possible for you. And yeah, he tells me that all the time. So I might have to go and just say, yeah, thanks.
You got to. You got a good man there. Let me tell you something. Yo, he's the wind beneath your wings, and I'm gonna say this too. I bet you if he was here on this interview, he would say, could tell you do the same for him.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like we talked about energies or rhythms. When I met you that night at that book release launch and stuff, I do a bunch of interviews, I do stuff. I really said, okay, I want to, and Malik had told me a little bit, but I was like, okay, it was just something about you. And I said, okay, and I understand, and this is also for you too. One of the things I learned, because I would feel overwhelmed sometimes, and like I just say, man, I just want to unpack what I've done, is to learn to live in that moment.
Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
you're sitting in class or you're teaching the class, or it's a student interaction, it's a one-on-one thing. Just kind of, like when you get your favorite meal
Yeah.
and you finally sit down and everything, and your whole mindset is that, hey, I want to enjoy every bite of this meal. I want to have all the flavor, everything. I want the flavor to match the smells, everything that I want. I want to totally experience this experience. And that's how it keeps us from being one of those people that did so much in our life,
Yes.
but we didn't enjoy it. We didn't, it was just constantly this grind to do this stuff. You know, in the Bible, Jesus wasn't never in a hurry, no way, nowhere. He just walked whatever most of the
He
time.
was chill.
He wasn't there. It's several times in the Bible where people was waiting on Jesus. Mary and Martha was mad because they was like, look, we sent you a text message 3 days ago. We told you our brother was dying 2 days ago. I got the text. Look at the log, Jesus. The text went out. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm like,
I know it's
the
just
text goes out. He said, and what? Not that night, but a whole 3 days later.
Yeah.
You just kind of and look and walking slow, just kind of sashaying up here, with your little crowd and stuff. Cause you know how y'all women can get in everything. Y'all can be like, especially when we ain't moving like you want us to move. They're like, oh, here he comes. Here he comes. You know they was thinking that back then. They was thinking the same. They weren't speaking English, but they were thinking. They said, "You hear the crowd? He's coming." Oh yeah. On Thursday, and we told him to come Monday.
That's it. Moving at a glacial pace.
Yeah. What is he coming for now?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Listen. Well, that's the thing that I had to learn and continue to learn, Maxine, is everything is going to happen.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we get going and we get revved up. Like when I came here, my plan was I knew people in the NBA offices in New York. I reached out. I was going to work for the NBA Global Academy in Canberra. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't know anything hardly about Australia other than the bridge and the opera house. Right. And my daughter was here. And I thought Canberra was like a little suburb of Sydney, where she lived.
That's right. Canberra's out of Washington.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm getting on the plane. And then I get there and my daughter tells me, I said, well, look, I got to go meet with the folks down at the Global Academy. And I think this is going to be my job. And, the money going to be straight and And here it comes. Now, here it comes again. Another pivot. The night before I get on the plane to come here, Malik calls me. We're on the phone. And seemingly still to me this day, out of nowhere, he's like, so what you going to be doing when you get there? And I'm telling him about the NBA Global Academy thing. Hey, anybody would jump and come to the other side of the world, work with the NBA. So I'm telling him all about my plan for that. And he goes right before I hang up, because it was morning time for him. It was late night for me in North Carolina. He goes, hey, man, you ever heard of an organization called Charity Bounce? You ought to check them out. And I was like, so, I'm sitting there with my laptop. So, you know how when you're talking to somebody, right. I kind of just typed it into Google search. And I'm going to tell you, I looked at it. I said, no, I'm not working for no nonprofit. I got my own nonprofit here in America. And I found out it is tough trying to help people, right, run an organization like that and everything. And God, he'll send you to some people to help them, and they don't even like you. They don't even like you, yo. And you going like, God, what's going on? And I said, and I kind of, I thought I said, oh well, I'm Cameron. It's gonna be Cameron for me. Right. And I get here, and here it comes again now. These chain of events start. Wow. A friend of mine who I met in 2015 when I came here wanted me to come speak for him. I go to speak to a group of kids. While I'm there, there's a guy there from Charity Bounce. And he walks up to me. White guy comes up to me and said, man, that was incredible what you said. That was powerful. I hadn't seen anybody engage with these kids like this anywhere. He said, have you ever heard of Charity Bounce? I said, you know what? I heard about it. about a week ago
Wow.
before I came here. And he said, well, I work with them. And he said, I would like you to meet this other guy that works above me. And I was ready to, you know how you get ready to tell people no, you just waiting for them to get
You're
through
fixing
asking.
your mouth to go, yeah, and I'm
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I'm good. I'm gonna hit it when I'm good. And he was like, I'm waiting for him to finish the whole thing. And he said, well, the guy, he's an American too. He used to be the head of USA basketball when they came here in the 2000 Olympics.
What?
And he used to work for the NBA home office there in New York.
Wow.
And I said, well, okay. So that was enough for me to go. I said, well, maybe that's going to help me with where I really think I'm going to be at in camera.
Right.
So I go meet with him, and he's working with Charity Bounce, and he goes, so I actually go speak to the group of kids they had. And he was like, hey, we need you to do this here. And, you know, I'm waiting on him because I'm getting ready to tell him I'm good too. And it's going to be a little harder because I want him to maybe put in a even bigger word for me at the NBA Global Academy. And he give me, you know how you think it.
Yeah. Is this that strategy? You're playing that, yeah.
So I said, so I ain't gonna just say no, no, no.
Right.
But it's gonna be a subtle no, but a no. And you know, I'm gonna get back to you on that. And
That intentional, but I'm still gonna talk, but it's a no.
But once I get set up in camera, you know, I'm gonna just call him and say, hey, I'm down here working, so I don't need I say more.
Right.
So he said, but just come and just sit down with our founder. And as they say, the rest is history. He said to me, he said, I don't know anything about the game of basketball. He said, I started this organization because I wanted to help young people become more resilient with the adversity and things that come in life. I wanted something that would draw them. And he said, and I literally went online and Google and said, what's the fastest growing sport in the world? And it said basketball. And he said, okay. He said, because I would have done AFL or rugby or whatever. Right. He said, basketball. And he was like, okay. And he said, and I went out and got some basketball people to help me with this. And I remember him saying, well, we would love to have you to be a part of us. And he was like, what would it take for you to work with us? And you know, I hit him with that number quick. And
you had it written down all day.
Yeah, you know, I always got my numbers. And he said, and it was, well, I don't know. Some people would call it a high six-figure number. But he goes, well, that sounds great. He said, we just not gonna be able to pay you that. And he said, but I still want you to really consider. And I remember going back, because I was staying with my daughter at the time. And I remember going back and sitting on her balcony and had another one of those nights. You know, I call it God, but for some people, I call it an epiphany. Or whatever. It came on me and said, same voice that said, in 2015, I'm gonna bless you here. He said, I'm gonna bless you as you give out of yourself to these young people. And I can honestly tell you, Maxine, it's been all and everything. It's the honor of my life. I mean, the most rewarding. I hope that these kids get at least a third out from me as what they give to me. It's hard for me to talk about it. I was trying to talk about it last night and I just stopped in the middle and I said, now, I told myself I'm not gonna cry in front of all the white people. And I said, it's just, I can't do it. So I'm gonna just stop right now. It's been just over these last 4.5 years. I could have, if we rewind 4.5 years, I couldn't have told you what I'm saying to you now. And you couldn't have told me.
Yeah.
You couldn't have said, Tracy, come on, this is going to be a great ride. I know now that when people Google, I've always wanted people to Google me and not see basketball player first.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But I didn't really know how that was going to happen.
How it was going to work out, yeah.
And it's been, and like we talked before we started recording tonight, I've always been real cognizant about what am I doing with my life? What's the give back? Because so many gave to me. I didn't tell you, man, I got so many stories that people that God just sprinkled over my life in the middle of adversity, hard times, broke, busted, can't be trusted. I mean, just, still chasing that dream, married at 19 in college, got a family. The NCAA rules say you can't work during the college season, wife working, you going to class, the whole wake up in the morning, seeing her go to work, I'm going to class, feeling like you ain't a man, all of all of that stuff that you coming through, you gotten through, feeling even as you go to class or go to practice or go to the game, I could get hurt today in practice. Something could happen. This stuff, I never would get to the money. It's never, and just every day having to win that battle in your head. Now I get to give all of it back. I remember one day watching the NBA now, and I'm like, God, look all this money that you're making. And I said, God, if I knew back then what I know now, And then while I was sitting there waiting for some kids to come in for a program, I was just sitting there going like, wow, just thinking about what that would have been like. And a kid walked in the door, and I was just, while I was thinking about if I had another chance to do it all over again, I'd be so much better. And I just remember when the kid walked in the door, I heard a voice in me say, there's a chance. Yeah. Then another kid came in. There's another chance.
Yeah.
And after a while, I had 50 chances standing in front of me. 50 chances to do it right this time, where I went wrong, to do it better this time, to pay it forward, to do that. So every day I walk in there, whether it's in front of one kid or whatever, and as a global ambassador, I still go and speak, but they pay the charity organization. They pay it through the organization. So I go all over the world to speak on behalf of the organization, but also I do programs on communications, team building, diversity and inclusion and things like that. And but again, to raise money for us to do programs. We're in Alice Springs. We're all over Australia doing programs. And so what I mean, and I never look at the calendar for a holiday. I love what I'm doing. I don't need a day off. I want to, Christmas Day this past year, 6 o'clock in the morning, the day before, I had 2 or 3 kids that said, Coach Tracy, hey, we want to work out in the morning.
Right.
And I said, well, what time y'all want to meet? They said 6 a.m. Like you say, Coach, you got to, the basketball never stops. Yeah. Kids, when they want something, they'll use your words. They'll give you your words back. Didn't you say, Ma, that you supposed to do this? And so I said, oh, I'll be there. I remember getting up, alarm clock ringing at 5. My wife said, it's Christmas. Where are you going? I said, I'm going to the gym. I said, I'm driving to the gym. These kids are catching 2-3 trains and a bus and walking a kilometer.
Yeah.
to get to the gym. And so you know I'm gonna be there when they get there.
Yeah.
And it's just, I have no words. It's been so amazing, this journey, and it continues to be so amazing to see the growth now in kids that I met. Man, I mean, Afghani refugees. I mean, we work with everybody. I mean,
right.
Seeing the growth and seeing them now last week graduating and stuff. And I feel, and I'm crying because I'm feeling like these my kids.
Yeah.
And you know, and our program has really grown now. So I'm not really doing any direct coaching. The ones I coach now is the guys that's been there when I first came here.
Yes.
But we got new coaches, you know, we scaling it, and because it's global, we're getting ready. Now we're open up, start doing programs in Nairobi, Kenya in January.
Oh,
so
what?
I'm going over to do that, and we starting in Los Angeles and New York, and so already I've been flying back over there to kind of set that up, and just, I mean, I've been blessed, man. You know, if you around when they put me in the ground, tell them folks do not cry. That dude had a good run.
Your funeral gonna be lit. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Tell them celebrate. Tell them to be celebrating.
I mean, lit.
It's gonna be turned all the way up. And I'm like, hey, he had a good run. I really, you know, this basketball thing, man, it provided me a platform, a launching pad, just like you. Yeah. In all of these things, one day you a DJ, next day you a professor, a teacher in school. You are touching tomorrow today with every individual student that you coming in contact with. You changing the world. I mean, you're changing the world. Every day you walk in the door, you should feel like you an X person, you a world changer. Yeah. Because you don't know what thing that you're gonna say or teach these kids that's gonna be a pivotal moment. And they're gonna end up and being somebody that's gonna control this world in some way. So I know, but I wanted to say this from the beginning. I'm telling you now. I want to tell you thank you, because I know it ain't been easy for you to do all the things that you do, and probably still not easy. Yeah. But hey, thank you so much for the courage, the determination, and seeing you had to choose to listen to your husband. You could have just said, man, miss me with that.
There have been some miss me moments, and then I go, you know that thing you said, there's some truth in that. I feel you on that. He gets me, and then sometimes he'd be, now if you had listened before, I go, no, but then these are teachable moments. You know what I mean? This is how it is.
There you
teachable
go.
Moments.
Teachable moments.
We grow and we glow together. That's what I always remind him. But it's, you know what, Tracy, listening to you, seeing the passion, seeing blessed in your face, right? You know, people say I'm blessed. You know, people say that all the time. When you actually see somebody who's living their testimony and who is blessed and is blessing others, that's what I've experienced tonight talking to you. And I know we've only just scratched the surface on your life journey to date. And I'm glad it's only been a scratching of the surface, because I want to be able to talk to you not only on the show, but you know, many, many, many more times, because there's so much that I think you're reaching and teaching here. And I do believe God puts people in your path for many, many reasons. So we were meant to cross paths, and I know Malik was out there doing God's work, being like the admin person. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm gonna hook this up because this is gonna happen. So shout out to the brother. You know, he's always connecting the right dots, man. He's always connecting the right dots. So I'm very grateful to him for connecting our dot. And I'm just grateful for you feeling that you can share your story within my little space tonight. So thank you so much.
Well, listen, thank you for providing me a space to do it, and not just me, but so many others. like I said, when we all get to heaven, it's going to be people that's going to come up to you that you didn't know in life, and they're going to tell you, hey, yo, you know what? You changed me. You touched me. And that's why I want to just exhort you, and I'm going to forever exhort you that they keep on keeping on, because they're watching, they're listening. And the unfortunate thing most of the time, it's the negative ones that,
Yeah.
that stand up to be heard. A lot of people, you know how we do it, especially as Black people, you know how we do.
Yeah.
It said, did you tell Maxine thank you?
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
for what she did for you. You're like, oh, she knew.
Yeah.
She knows
Oh, shit, I don't
how I
need to
feel
tell her
about. No,
nothing.
no, no. Yeah, yeah. No, you don't know what's happening that day. I always thank people for their kind words, because some days, man, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
Some days eat still, and I gotta go listen to my own downloads. I gotta go do. I'm going like, really, because today I don't even want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
I just want to stay and just keep the covers up over my head,
Yeah.
because life is too heavy for me, Maxine, and I feel like I'm gonna drop it.
I feel
And
you.
and I still have those moments where I have to reconfigure and just kind of, just like you said, just exhale and go, okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's get off of what we're thinking and
Yeah.
get back to what we know.
Yeah.
We knowing this. This is what we know. And this is what we know. And we know this and this and this. And the thing, and it turns, then all of a sudden I feel my energy is starting to come back, and all of these different things. And like I said, I just, one of the best things about what I do with my life is to be able to talk with people, a sister like you,
Mm-hmm.
and to again exhort you and like, hey, you having this space for our culture, we need it. I've often, here's something for you. Like the great Larry Bird, great NBA star, said something so powerful, it almost blew me off my love seat. I'm sitting there one day, he's doing an interview, he's retired, and they're doing a big show on his life and his times in NBA. And Bob Costas, an American
Yes.
interviewer, is interviewing him. And I don't remember nothing else about the interview but this one part. Right at the end, I don't even know if he had it in his notes. You know, Bob, he looks at him and said, and one more thing before we go. He said, Larry, I'd like to ask you this question. He said, why don't we have many more great white players like you? And I was like shocked that he would ask
Wow.
on NBC like that.
Right.
And then when I thought that was the biggest shock I was going to get, Bird answered like right away. And he said, because when they look on the TV, they don't see themselves. He said, if they can see it, they'll become it.
Wow.
They'll be it. It's what they seeing. He said, and they're feeling like it's not possible for them to compete against the Black players that are there now. He said, and they're great players.
Yeah.
They are great players. And he was like, and you see Bob Costas almost fell out of that chair, because I don't even think he was even imagining that how quick he answered the question. He said, and then and that was like, again, part of me, it became a part of me. I want them kids to see something different, that there's a way out of what they call the trap and everything. And you are more in what they expect. I tell kids, stop trying to live up to some of these people in your life expectations, because you're going to find out one day they wasn't expecting much. I said, what you got to do, you got to dream your own dream, and then you got to valiantly go after it. You got to be the one to be proactive and responsible. You, in your mind, you thought about this podcast, this show. And I'm telling you, you will never probably know in this life, if you stop tonight, how many people that have one night just came across your shows.
Yes.
And one, like I heard TD Jake say this one time, they said, how did you become, he said, man, I've been preaching like this for decades.
So long.
He said, but one night, a man coming home tired, turned on the TV. He said, I was on the TV my first time in my life. They told me I was only going to be on for 2 minutes. He said, and it was more like 1:45. That guy happened to turn the TV on. He said later he told me the story. Saw it. He said he was taking his clothes off to go take a shower and go to bed. And he stopped and heard me. He happened to be a major television exec. He came up, he said, saw my name under the thing, wrote it down, got in the shower. A week or two later, got his assistant to reach out to come. And no, he called another guy, said, hey, here's a guy I think you can use him. He calls, says, catches him. He said at a time right before his phone was getting ready to get cut off, because the phone, he had no money to pay the phone. Less than 2 minutes has turned into a lifetime of speaking to millions of people around the world. And I'm telling you right now, you are that one. So don't stop. Keep going. I always tell myself in the mirror, we don't stop till the casket drop. And if it do, I'm so hooked on growth, and I have so much of a growth mindset. I told my wife, I said, I'm so hooked on growth that when they bury me, the man who cuts the grass at the cemetery gonna have to cut mine twice. But every time, because the grass is just gonna grow over it. I'm so hooked, I'm so committed to what I think is the highest level of human self-awareness is when we can look at ourselves and say, you come up to me, because I think me and you gonna be friends for a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't even ask you, but I just that was one of the things I knew the first night I met you. I said, oh yeah. That's
sprinkling that truth.
I said, yeah. I said, I don't even want to blow a mind with that, because you were like getting ready to go. I was like, hey, we gonna be good friends, don't you? You know.
I think you actually said when I gave you my card, you were like, now is you gonna call me?
That's it.
Or you gonna be that person that's like, yeah, I'm gonna
it.
call you, but you ain't gonna. And I thought, I've never had someone ask me that. Of course I'm gonna call you. What do you think this is? You was tested.
I knew. Malik said, I said, hey, say less. Yeah. I went over there, I said, look, let me tell you, because I know how God sprinkles.
Yeah.
And how he connects, it's like that old cartoon, conjunction, junction. What's your
function?
Hooking up things and making them run right. I said, Malik, you the connector. He hooked that up. Yeah. I said, and I'm gonna run with it. I said, I knew, and I got in the car and I told my wife, I said, the Maxine lady, I said, we met a couple of people in here tonight. I met some people from the ABC and different ones, but I said, this lady here, I said, you remember the lady? I said, light-skinned black lady. I said, I don't know. And at this point, God can keep me on a need-to-know basis. I don't know how it's going to go down or whatever. It may be one person, but it's going to be the one person because we came together.
Yeah.
We came together, and it could be this show or another show. We came together because I really want to sit down with you to chop up this mutual passion and love that we have for the hip hop culture. I grew up in New York at the time when Marley Marl put that speaker, his mama's speaker, out the window over in what we call the Boogie Down Bronx, and put it up, and it literally, and he grabbed 2 turntables and put a piece of felt on it so he could pull the record back and create this new type of instrument called a record scratching, and what it was like that speaker blasted out all the way across the Brooklyn Bridge into Brooklyn, out to the ferry to Staten Island, and to the world. And that's the thing about us as Black people, our culture, how it's so strong, and I love it. I love it. I love it about us, that we such a soulful people, and it's so strong.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
halfway across the world, Tracy. Look at
Yes.
that, right? And again, chatting up my husband, he says it all the time when he used to travel, especially with the Navy. And he's like, he used to love it when he'd go to like these countries that, you wouldn't think walking down the street and you'd be hearing, Rakim being blasted out of a wind, and you like, I'm in the middle of Singapore, or I'm in Japan, and they playing. And he's like, he used to trip him out when he used to come to Australia, and he'd hear, Jay-Z or Nas in like a sneaker shop, and he's like, yo, they know, like they love hip hop culture all over the world, and that was what brought us together, was our love of hip hop. And
See,
we've been together for 17 years, and that love of hip hop, now we raise our boys with that very same intrinsic love of that hip hop culture. So yeah, we're a powerful people. We really
it
are.
is. And it emanates from us, our essence of who
Mhm.
we are. And I try to let every one of us, I said, listen, we're greater than our imaginations.
Yeah.
We can do, I'm always like, one guy one day said, Tracy, look, I know you say you grew up with us and everything. He said, but you know what? He said, because he was tired of me giving this motivational thing to him. He said, you know what? You grew up with us. You did.
Yeah.
Because I was like, come on, if I could do it, you could do it. He said, you grew up with us, but you never thought like us.
Yeah.
And that's the only time somebody shut me up, when I was in midstream of this. He said, and I knew then it's a mindset.
Yeah.
And I just started researching that, and I continue to do that. And I'm telling you, and like I said, that music, before I pack underwear, I'm gonna have my batteries charged for my music. My music, I don't even toothbrush or nothing. I know, my phone, whatever I'm playing that music on, it's I'm telling you, it's transformative. It transports you
It really
to
does.
another time and place.
It
And
heals. It
it
heals.
does. It heals. It does.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, girl, when me and you, we next time we do this, we just gonna jump straight into that hip hop a bit.
1,000%. We
And
can do a part two.
yes,
Literally, we can do a part two. So what I'm going to do now, we gonna say goodnight on this version, but Tracy Williams is gonna be back to talk about his hip hop journey, right? His your love of hip hop, your love of the culture, and how that's made you the man that you are, and that's gonna be the part two. So
that
this is gonna be
and
great.
I'm gonna give it the title, the soundtrack hip hop, the soundtrack of my life.
There we go.
Hey, and I'm gonna talk to you through the not the life and times, but the life and rhymes that that
See?
that, that it went through. And
Mhm.
we're gonna do, and I want to close by saying a J line. I got to give my J line. Everybody, the kids know my J line. I said, over here we measure success by how many people successful next to you. Here we say you broke if everyone else is broke except for you.
Mhm.
Boss. And
Mhm.
I'm like, yo, you know Jay hit you,
Yes.
and you like stop the music, because you gotta like, okay, he just put a lot on me right there. I need to
Yeah.
let this
Oh
marinate.
yeah.
I gotta let this marinate. He just, yo. And I'm sitting there telling my grandkids, like, hey, listen what he's saying. Jay preaching right now. This
Rewind.
yeah, this
Listen.
rewind. He's giving you that business,
Yeah.
and you gotta get with it. And I'm going, yeah. So again, let's get in it. Again, thank you. I can't wait.
Thank
Just
you.
let me know. I'm like I always say, same bounce time, same bounce channel. I'll be I'll be ready to go rock and roll. Just let me
Oh
know.
man, it's been an absolute honor, brother. Really, it just yeah, this has been transformative. So not motivational, but transformative. And I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I'm excited for conversations that are gonna come, right? And I'm excited for just the connection and what it brings for both of our worlds. I think it's gonna be something very special. So.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank
Blessings
you.
to you and your lovely wife. And man, we'll talk again real soon.
Because we definitely got to get together because you know I got to meet your husband.
Oh, listen, I'm already thinking about cookouts, hon, but we're gonna talk about that off air. The people don't
Okay.
need to hear that.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye bye.